Fear it!
Phantom is movement, striking from where none expect. Blade is breath. We channel it into steel, turning any blade into a divine weapon. When Phantom and Blade unite, no enemy stands.
Most action games scream for your attention, louder trailers, brighter sparks, bigger numbers. Phantom Blade Zero does something sharper. It whispers, then it cuts. It looks like a storm of steel, but it is really a clock, and it is counting down. Because you are soul, framed, hunted, and running on borrowed heartbeats, with 66 days left to live. And that single premise changes everything: pacing, aggression, and the kind of choices you make when time is a weapon. For the masses, Phantom Blade Zero is easy to label: fast combat, dark fantasy vibes, boss fights, and a stylish hero. For the elite, it is something more deliberate, a KungFuPunk identity that fuses classic wuxia storytelling with modern pop influences, including steampunk and cyberpunk texture. That label is not marketing fluff, it is a promise about rhythm, movement, and how the world is framed through action.
其实我们既不是传统的武侠，也肯定也不是仙侠，其实我们是武侠朋克。
我们也不过是把这个中国的传统的这些武打武术的东西呈现了很小的一部分而已。
这样非常的优良，可以说是顶尖的动作系统。
非常的刀光剑影，而且真的是特别爽的一款爽游，
完全符合我对一个这种中式武侠世界观的设定，以及这种动作系统的这样的一个设计，就真的很棒啊！
是一个很不错的爽游啊，玩起来很过瘾，爽非常好。
This is a premium, single-player action RPG coming to PlayStation 5 and PC, and it is built in Unreal Engine 5. It also has a hard date now, September 9th, 2026, which turns speculation into a schedule. And when a game like this locks in a date, the conversation stops being what is it and becomes what is it trying to prove. Because Phantom Blade Zero is a continuation of the Phantom lineage and also a rebooting spiritual rebirth connected to earlier works in the series. So yes, it is new, but it is not random. It is a world with scars, with old rules, and with a new blade being sharpened for a global audience. Soul is not just the protagonist, he is a man on a timer. He is framed for the death of his master, chased by his former organization, and kept alive by a makeshift cure that only lasts 66 days. That premise is not background flavor, it is the narrative spine. Here's the clever part. The countdown is not only story pressure, it is design pressure. When your character is dying, every fight becomes a negotiation with risk. Every detour becomes a statement about priorities. And suddenly, the meta is not how do I grind, it is what am I willing to ignore to reach the truth. The Order, the shadowy organization Soul served, is not painted as cartoon evil. It feels like a machine that once gave him purpose, until purpose turned into a leash. And now, in the last stretch of his life, the story pushes a deeper question: who is Soul, when he finally gets to choose? Near the end, remember this, the game's urgency is not only about death. It is about identity, the kind you inherit, and the kind you earn in public blood. Don't follow the crowd. Follow the aura. A lot of games borrow martial arts as a skin. Phantom Blade Zero treats martial arts as a language, with grammar, tempo, and consequence. The developers have been clear about their inspirations: Golden Age Hong Kong action cinema and classic wuxia films that emphasize clarity of motion and felt impact. That is why motion capture matters here, not as realism theater, but as a way to preserve intent in every strike. You will have over 30 weapons and more than 20 phantom edges to mix and match. You can take weapons from powerful foes, along with their signature techniques, turning victory into permanent growth. That is not just loadout variety, it is narrative cannibalism. You learn your enemies by wearing their violence. People will compare it to Soulslikes, to character action games, to everything with a parry button. But the design philosophy threads a needle, accessible to many, demanding mastery through timing, flow, and awareness. That tension, approachable yet punishing, is where great action games survive. This is where Phantom Blade Zero becomes quietly educational, without turning into a lecture. The team has studied real-world cultural movement, like dragon dance choreography, then translated that flow into boss fights using performance capture. Spectacle here is not noise, it is structured motion. The same goes for concepts like drunken sword fighting. Erratic movement is not randomness, it is controlled instability, readable chaos with intention. That signals respect for martial tradition while still building modern encounters. Wuxia itself centers on the idea of the martial hero. Not just how you fight, but why you fight, and who you protect when convenient morality fails. This is where Soul's internal struggle matters most, because the heart failing in his chest mirrors the one being tested by choice. For the masses, lore is dialogue and cutscenes. For the elite, lore lives in movement, and timing, and how a boss hesitates, and how a weapon remembers its former owner. This is the meta beneath the surface. Don't follow the crowd. Follow the aura. Phantom Blade Zero sells speed, but it prioritizes weight. Every strike is framed to feel intentional, violent, and irreversible. The Phantom world is layered with memory, strange entities, and wider conspiracies that crack open beyond personal revenge. That is how scope expands without losing intimacy. Personal loss becomes systemic rot. Even the title language matters. Phantom is movement, striking unseen. Blade is breath, channeled into steel. That definition is not poetic filler, it is a combat thesis. Phantom Blade Zero is confirmed for PlayStation 5 and PC with a global launch set for September 9, 2026. Wishlist milestones crossed the 1 million mark shortly after opening, which signals attention at scale. There is also a platform conversation worth noting. The game is positioned to launch without Xbox support at release, aligning its prestige messaging around PC and PlayStation ecosystems. Whether temporary or permanent, that decision tells you where the center of gravity is. Zooming out, Chinese-developed AAA action games are no longer emerging. They have arrived. And Phantom Blade Zero is fighting for a place at the top of that stack. Don't follow the crowd. Follow the aura. When the next trailer drops, do not only look at visuals. Look at clarity of motion. Look at how the 66-day limit shapes structure. Look at whether KungFuPunk feels unified or stitched together. Because the difference between a stylish action game and a lasting one is discipline. Quiet systems. Deliberate violence. A framework that holds when trends move on. Don't follow the crowd. Follow the aura.